The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning? Yeah.
Phooey. Is an
phooey
kind of day here.
Yeah.
Oh, but I wanted to say this too before I forget. Chester had said in one of his letters recently that the irises come up around May 1st through the 10th. That's when the irises
Mine are starting to come up.
And my irises are starting to come up. Like, well, I have buds. They're poking out. Like, there's buds. They're getting ready to, but they're going to start blooming here. So Chester was right.
Yep.
I bet that makes him feel good. You were right, Chester.
Absolutely. I counted. I think there's like 8 or 9 buds I'm hoping that bloom. That'd be a lot for the iris this year. So
yes, my iris are doing way better than last year, and the irises in the neighborhood are doing really good too. So it's kind of like an food day, and it's like Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was nice a couple days ago, so now it's got to be yucky.
Yeah.
But I should be in a better mood because we have 2 Chester letters today.
We do have 2 Chester letters today. And it's going to be quite an interesting episode. This is a bit of an emotional roller coaster of an episode because we're going to start the episode in one place and we're going to end the episode in a very different place. Speaking of, I have a little bit of an updated, like, little piece of news about one of our great friends of the Love Sweetie podcast. And I wanted to make sure that I took the time this morning to share this. It lends to why it's such an Afui day, personally. And that's the person who voices as Lou, as Sweetie's husband, Andrew. He's done such a great job. Andrew's fine, but he shared some very tragic news on Thursday evening on social media. He shared that his father, Jim, had passed away. And so we're just, we're all sending our thoughts and prayers out to Andrew. Jim was a delight. He was born in 1944, so he was kind of coming from my dad's generation, same sense of humor.
Yeah.
Jim and I would talk history a lot of the time. He would talk Civil War history. He could really talk Civil War history. He's one of those people I could sit down and talk to, and we could really get into some stuff. And he would bring me books on Lincoln that he found at like thrift stores and things like that. Really, really wonderful man. But anyway, just if our audience could keep their thoughts and prayers with Andrew at this time of grief. So we're just going to dive, Jamie, right into some content here from mid-March.
So without further ado, Dr. Chester.
Lacona, Iowa, March 12, 1952. Dear Jeanne, I'm doing fairly well, but you know that most anything can happen. But I have hopes of going through the summer anyway. We will plan to be up just as soon as my condition and the weather permits. So there is nothing more than was on the surface when you were here. Tell Jabil we got a chance to sell the farm. I priced it to the fellow at $4,500, but told the fellow that I wanted to see what Bill wanted to do about it before we sold it. I mostly think that I can get it. Perhaps I will write Bill about it. I wrote Frank and thought it best to do it for fear something might happen. Have made a call in the country today as well as one yesterday. Plenty of mud now that the snow is about gone. This has been a deal of a winter. Must close. Love, Papa. The Chevy conked out on us last night and can't even get it in the garage. Let us know as soon as you can make an appointment. May want to have Glen come after us.
So we know from our last episode that Chester was not feeling well. Sweetie had made mention of it. He had, written letters to her. So it seems that I just, to hear him say something, I have hopes of going through the summer anyway, just, that weighs a little heavy on me. But he's still going out and making calls.
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm. And then he talks about the sale of the farm, which, if we think back to when he first bought the farm, remember how he had that part where he was like, maybe for hundreds of years, maybe it'll survive 100 years and like future generations will be here at this farm. So we know for certain now this is not going to be the case. Which had to upset him. It sounds like he's getting a good deal. It's just too much to maintain. It's just him and Laura. It's a big farm.
Well, he makes mention of Jabil.
Yeah.
So is that something maybe he's just clinging to, you think, that he maybe?
I think so. Yeah.
Was $4,500 what he paid for the farm? I don't think so. I think he paid less. But I do remember him saying, like, making mention, and even in that letter, he was like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's kind of sad. He only had it for a few years.
I'm just glad that we have the photos from the few years that he did have it. So we got to see the picture of the haystack and the pond. And there's at least 3 more pictures of the pond, which is very square. I would just like to note it's a very square pond. But I like that the schoolhouse and the bell, and of course the fire happened on the farm. If you missed the episode about the fire, I'll put that link in the description.
Chester set his farm on fire.
Whoopsies, and then he lied about it. And the truth has only come out now, so it only took 70 years. So
and then he lied about it.
Yeah, it
was
a
little bit of humor today. So that's fun. And poor Jeanne. Oh gosh, Jeanne.
Poor Jeanne.
Poor Jeanne. But yeah, so he's still making calls. Yeah, he's still not feeling good. But this one is March 12th that he wrote that one. So a couple of days later, he writes to Jeanne again.
Lacona, Iowa, March 14, 1952. Dear Jeanne, am feeling better since my 3 or 4 days in bed. Have a pretty good pulse without quinidine, but shall stay in bed for 5 or 6 days anyway. We wish we had better weather. Won't go up to Des Moines till the weather is better. Got letters, too, from Sweetie this morning. Remember us to Lizzie. Love, Papa.
I know what letters he got.
Yeah. Yep.
But he's not feeling well at all.
No. And I'm not sure what quinidine is. It sounds like quinine, which is the stuff in tonic water. But just in case, insert disclaimer here. Special disclaimer. The medicines and other medical treatments noted in these historical letters from the 1950s are specific to Sweetie's story and might not be recommended today, or are even more regulated than they were so many years ago. As such, none of the medical information contained within these letters is to be construed as medical advice. Talk to your doctor. Thank you for your attention to this message. Now, back to the show. And there we go. Yeah, so
it sounds, whatever it is, it sounds powerful and potent and probably isn't made anymore today.
Sounds like it. Sounds like some hardcore stuff, but yeah.
Right. And he's resting, so he's not, and and we talked about this last episode, the problem that he was having could have easily been solved in today's day and age. And so for him to have to suffer through this and have to read about it and know that he was suffering something that we could take care of now, it's kind of rough.
Right.
But
I was thinking of his age. He's So he was born in 1886. So he's in his mid to late 60s at this point. If people are wondering how old Chester is when he's going through some heart issues, that's where he is. But that's all the update we get from him. And then we're going to transport ourselves from Iowa back to southeastern Pennsylvania, back to Doylestown, because the next 2 letters that we're going to go through for the rest of this podcast, they're from Sweetie. "363 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania, March 20th, 1952. Hello, all you sardines at 1341 West 14th. Happy first day of spring to you all. And if yesterday was strictly few, today is all even a dreamer could expect of the first day of spring. The sun is shining brightly. It is so much warmer than it was yesterday, and if this day is like the last one, I shall be having great difficulty battling the mud to pull weeds and clear up a little. I must say, though, that in my enthusiasm the other day, I fear I pulled up some ivy vines and roots, for I've a suspicious-looking spot on my right hand between my fingers. Here we go again. That is one of the reasons why I want to get out there and get some of the debris cleaned away, so that I can actually wage war on the ivy. We shall see. I forgot to send along the $2 to Papa for part payment on the aureomycin. I got in a hurry to get to the mailbox before the mailman came and forgot it, but I shall enclose it today. Now, it is my turn to warn you to let me know when it arrives safely. Yesterday, at school, Louis told the first grade news that his grandfather and grandmother had sent him a watch, and he also said his grandfather was sick and was visiting Aunt Jeanne for a while. It was Mrs. Houck told him she thought the watch was a fine gift, and when he wrote to thank you, that he should also tell you that, as his teacher, she sent along her best wishes for your very prompt recovery. You already have my best wishes, but there they are again with hers. Of course, he cannot write you a letter. Oh, he could, but it wouldn't do a lot of good, since you'd not be able to understand all of it. But he did sit down and write the enclosed slip that I think you will be able to make out. His only mistake was to write zoo as ooze, and he had to erase and correct. What do you think of it? He also made a little booklet that I shall send you to look at, but ask that you keep it for his scrapbook. You might enjoy looking at it anyway. Believe I'll save the booklet to send tomorrow, but will enclose his writing today. He is rather critical of Miss Darst at times, complains quietly because she slurps her soup, and he is always as amazed as I am at the amount of food she consumes. I heard her saying the other night, as I was clearing the table, "Well, I'll finish this little bit of spinach. It is too good to go to waste." Louis, who always more or less shouts to make her hear him, drew a deep breath and shouted, "My mother never wastes anything. She saves it for leftovers." He has a rather nice method of putting her in her place, too. I wrote you that she complained about my paying Louis for helping me around the house, and she went into a long tirade about the younger generation and what it was like when she was a girl and her mother's methods for getting work done. Louis was very obviously sick of the whole thing before she got well started, tolerated it for a while, and then interrupted her with, "Miss Darst, isn't your food getting cold?" She hushed too, but luckily she decided to look upon it as something out of the mouths of babes, though sometimes she calls herself Meddlesome Mattie, and I must say it is a very descriptive and adequate name. I notice that almost this entire winter he has had a very bad breath. I carefully supervise brushing his teeth in the morning, and often use the mouthwash, if there is time, but by noon, and at least by after school, it is usually noticeably bad. I wonder if that could be from his tonsils, and what you would recommend for getting rid of it. In the morning, especially, it is enough to knock me down.
That probably is his tonsils. He's probably got tonsil stones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a common problem, but that's kind of funny that that's what she said. So let's talk about, so she's dealing with the poison ivy again.
Mm-hmm.
So Lewis, got a watch, and so he has like a little first grade news thing. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Talk about the things that they do.
Mrs. House
Oh,
did
and
a
so
neat thing. That's nice.
yeah. So Miss Darce, that's fun. I like it because what a fun way to like be like, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
Without saying shut up.
His diplomatic way. Isn't your food getting cold?
Oh, and he stood up right up for his mother. He probably watched Miss Darce berate his mother. But let's talk about too, like, she's like, my mother did this and did that. I'm like, wasn't your mother committed?
Yeah.
She's like, this spinach is too good to go to waste. I'm like, well, at least that's a compliment to Sweetie's cooking.
I gotta say, I take great delight in doing the Darce dialogue, because it's just, before I started narrating these letters from season 3, it hadn't occurred to me just how much dialogue we do get from Miss Darce, that she recounts what she's saying. And then it was just like, as soon as I started recording from like the very first time, in my head just popped into this figure just to be like a very sort of high pitched, fast, very enunciated voice for Darce, because it had to be proper at the same time. And because she's the aristocrat. So,
well, she's from Ohio, right?
Originally, yeah.
She's from Ohio, and we have an Ohio accent.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this discussion before. A friend of mine, he's like, newscasters actually study like Ohio accents because we have the most. I don't know if that's true or not, but so she's probably speaking in Ohio.
Okay,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that she's got that because the Pennsylvania has a very distinct way of talking. It's very subtle. I really love it out here. I love the way that like the accents, from the like Pittsburgh accent. I love it. And the Philly, even the Philly and the Delco one that you do.
The water.
The water.
You gotta get the waters. We gotta get the water, and then we're gonna go watch the Ickles.
That's how it is. But yeah, so like she probably has like a little bit of that Ohio accent still.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Probably does. And then, you know what, in the beginning of the letter, and this does actually indicate what is going on, we get the hint so that she's aware that something's going on with her dad. I didn't get it until I listened back. That's amazing to me. Sometimes I only catch things as I listen to my own narration while we're doing the episode. All you sardines. Yes. And I'm like, why is she saying sardines? Like, I thought it was a thing. I was like, oh, because they're like packed together in 1341 at Jeanne's place. That means Chester and Laura are there at this point, and that there's just, it's a lot of people in one little space in that apartment in Des Moines. I totally didn't get that until I just listened to it. I was like, oh.
See, isn't that's why it's good. I like to watch the episodes too, because sometimes I like pick up on things. And whenever you read, yes, I definitely pick up on that kind of stuff. So March 14th, he was in Lacona.
Right.
And then March 20th, so almost a week later, they had actually made it up to Des Moines.
Yep.
And that's where they are now.
Definitely
so
there
that's
now.
Good.
Yep.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that we have that update. But now we got to talk about cameras again.
Yes, we do. Now, here's something else I want to write you about, and get the expert advice of you camera addicts. Sister once made great fun of me for furnishing my house off the city dump, but more and more I find it is true that you can get almost anything you want if you will wait and look for it. We have been wanting a movie camera and projector since Jeanne and Glen visited here, and by the old rule of wait and watch and then, like the Dickens, all things come to those who wait. There is a sailor at the base who is trying to sell an 8mm movie camera and a projector as a pair for $50, I think. Now, I might be mistaken, but I think that is the price he said. Now, to get down to the finer points, the projector is this: Keystone, Boston, Massachusetts, 8mm model R37, 3 amps, 115 volt AC-DC mix. Lamp wattage 300 watts, made in USA. I cannot tell how old it is, but am going to stop at the camera shop and ask them what they think of it. He wants $35 for the projector and $15 for the camera, which is Univex Cinecamera 8mm, model C8 Exposition model, made by Universal Camera Corporation, New York. And on the lens is written Ilex Univar, f5.6, Ilex Optical Company, Rochester, New York. The speeds are f5.6, 6.3, 8, 11, 16. The viewfinder looks to be about 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and it is a sad-looking item, if my opinion amounts to anything. Lou brought it home last night, along with a couple of films, to show us how it worked. I'm going to pause here for a moment, just because for our audience, I have never tripped over words so much as these camera terminologies and these locations and these companies. So if anyone's a camera, photography, history of photography buff, there you go. That's the dose of all of the technical specs you're going to get on whatever this camera is. But my goodness, if you need a good tongue twister, there you go. We enjoyed the film immensely, and so I am going to send it out to you to see while you're resting. There are 2 films on the one roll, spliced to run continuously, and it is necessary to send the empty reel along. I think you'll like the second one. Lewis enjoyed them both very much. We showed them twice, and I think, short as it is, you'd like to see it too. I got permission from the boy this morning when I drove down with Lou to bring the car back. He has the duty and won't be home tonight, to send them out for you to see. I don't think he was too keen on the idea, but I'm going to do it anyway, and you see them and send them back right away so his feathers don't get ruffled. I don't think we want the camera at all. The projector would probably be just fine for us, but the catch is that he won't sell them separately. Surely if he did, he'd never sell the camera at all. I understand the whole batch goes for $50, and that includes some more film too. But I don't know just what it would be. Some short stuff. I'd like to have more if they were like the second half of this one. Be sure to write and let me know what you think of the above items. I'll stop in the camera shop today, if I possibly can, and see what the projector is worth, and I'll write you what they have to tell me. But you write and tell me what you think of the deal. On a separate piece of paper, I'll trace around this camera to show you what a midget it is. Also, as evidence of our scavenger tendencies, Lou happened upon the naval dump the other day as the photographic office was disposing of some expired printing paper. The photographic chief, who luckily is a friend of Lou's, was there and told him the paper, which is 41½ inches wide and comes in a long roll like the roll of brown wrapping paper you had expired. It was beyond the expiration date when he came to the station in 1949 and had lain unused until it was absolutely worthless. And as the chief is no slouch at scrounging himself, when it comes to usable photographic stuff, we could be reasonably sure he was telling the truth. But Lou, with his old philosophy of never throw anything away, you never know when you might want it, brought home a roll, and now we find it was just meant for a movie screen. It is heavy, without wrinkles, and makes a finer picture than anything else. I suspect it was intended for photographic murals, as the roll is quite sizable, and there should be enough for each member of the family who would like to have some. Speak. We used it last night, and found it far better than a cloth screen. I must stop, as it is nearly time for Lewis to get home for lunch, which isn't started, and I must get the film ready to mail out to you, while I have the car to get to the post office. I have many errands to run and must not be too late to get them done. There is a wildlife exhibit uptown in one of the stores, since this is Wildlife Week, and I promised to take Lewis as soon as school was out this afternoon. Miss Darst had been wanting to go, so you see, I'll have to stop and hop. Hope you're much, much better in every way. I'll write again soon, just for entertainment, for there's surely not much else here. Love to each of you. Sweetie, Lou, and Lewis.
So the hunt for the 8mm camera continues.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny though. They're like trying to find one, and this one I guess came with some films.
Yep.
And she's like, I'm gonna send them out. And so like this person is like, yeah, okay, here, take it. Go ahead and send it somewhere states away, and is perfectly fine with it. I can understand his hesitancy.
Yeah. But the paper, I love this stuff with the chief at the base, the hookup for this roll of paper. I mean, 41½ inches, all I could think is like, this is so much bigger than her 12-inch television set. That's
never gonna not be funny.
Never. No, I love it. It's like on our screen. I'm looking at my screen way bigger than 12 inches. And I'm like, here's the ruler. That is, okay, everybody watching the YouTube right now, okay? This is the width of her television in her living room. So when she's talking about almost 4 times this in width for this roll, for the projector, see, now we're starting to come into like the size our televisions are today. So,
Allison, is that like the ruler that your dad uses when he reads?
yes, it is.
Is that why it says Super Dad on it?
I didn't even notice that. It's
Did
just
you
been
notice
there.
it says Super
Been
Dad?
in the collection, yes. So he is the super dad. This has been here forever. I don't know when we got this, but he does use this one. He likes to keep track of where he is, so he moves the ruler along the paper. Yeah.
I like that though. I was like, that must be not Chester. Oh, isn't that funny? I do want to do that to him sometimes. That must be Lewis's ruler.
Yeah.
He's a super dad. So like it sounds like they might be getting a projector at least, so she won't have to borrow the neighbors all the time, which would be nice. And then there would be an 8mm projector, so they'd be able to share their films. They could just send films. That would be so nice. And it's always funny to me to think about. Like, I remember having a movie camera, like having one of those big at home, the VHS like set, like it fits inside and you have to carry, and like how big of a deal that was. And so that must have kind of been like what it was like for them.
Yeah, we really didn't have it as kids. We have very little footage of like myself and my sister on film. The one video, I have to find it, is my mom threw a Good Bears Day party. She came up with this idea that everybody would bring their stuffed bear, and then it would be like us and the bears, and they would like, there was like little games and stuff. But Dad had a camera for that, and he like takes this footage, and some of my favorite, because I'm like, this is how I was as a child. Some things have never changed. Like, I would just wander off and I'd be like in the music room playing the piano when everybody else is doing something else. And then my favorite thing is we went outside I think we were looking for like sort of like Easter egg hunt. And I think it was like, I wander off into the yard. It was either myself or my sister. I wander off into the yard and I just see this video where they're like, Allie, it's around the house. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I come running back. But it's one of the only videos that we have footage wise. So I totally get her desire to do this. Unfortunately, to our audience, I keep looking, I keep hoping somebody has some of this footage, but none of it has survived to my knowledge. So we haven't been able to watch any of these tapes. And you'd have to preserve it pretty well for, in an archival kind of sense for film footage to really survive from the 50s. But I keep hoping that it's going to surface someday.
Well, you have found things. It's been crazy, some of the stuff you found. So we'll see. I'm not gonna give up hope. I'm hoping, and I'm not gonna give up on this.
Oh, at the end of the letter, I wanted to talk about this. The wild week that they're talking about. That Darce wants to go out and see something. We have to remember that Miss Darce is an artist. So seeing like the subject of something that's in the natural world outside of something she would usually see. It's going to be very fascinating to her, because at this time, and my dad tells stories about it that we don't have pictures of it, she would do like little scribbles on the wall and stuff like that, little artistic scribbles and things. Like, she would, apparently there was a part where like if there was a crack in the wall, she would use the crack as part of like a line and draw like a cat around it and things like that, and she would incorporate the damaged thing. She had a really interesting eye, so I'm not surprised that she wanted to go see this.
I don't like that you're making me like Miss Darce. Like,
gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Fascinating woman. Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling that she has been a certain way for a very large part of her life, and then now she has Sweetie and Lewis, and even Lou, I'm sure to some extent probably has said something to her where she's getting challenged. Yeah. Like, she's used to being able to just do whatever she wants to do. So maybe that having that pushback from, other people where it's like, no, I don't think that we're going to be doing that today, Miss Darce, has been good for her.
She also likes an audience. And she hasn't had one for probably a very long time outside her brother. That's true. When she's doing all of this, she is seeking that, but she's just fascinating. Still a villain. But what an interesting one. So that's why I wanted to call
our villain.
Yeah.
We love her to an extent. So that was a nice, I like these shorter letters. Like, I'm not like the long ones are cool and the mega letters are cool, but these shorter letters are a little bit easier to get through.
Yep.
So That was our third letter for today, and then we have one more, and this one is a little bit heavier.
Airmail. Mr. Glen O. Joss, Lakeshore Tire and Rubber Company, Des Moines, Iowa. Please hold for the night shift. "363 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania, March 20th, 1952. Dear Glen and Jeanne, I must admit there was a moment or two last summer at G-Mom's and Elizabeth's when I was just sure you must have rocks in your head. But if you do have rocks for brains, you surely must have a golden heart to make up for it. And I felt I just had to write and tell you that I shall never stop appreciating what you're helping Jeanne do for Mama and Papa, and ultimately what you're doing for Bob and the rest of us. For I know that Bob would do it if he were living." All right, we're going to stop right here because we've got a total sudden shift from the letter written the same day to the family. We had just talked about the sardines, that everybody is now in Des Moines in the last letter, which is the same day.
Mm-hmm.
If Sweetie wants to keep something confidential from Jeanne and Glen, she cannot mail it to Jeanne's address because Laura and Chester are there and might intercept it. And Chester's the type that he might be like, "Oh, just bring that over here. It's from Sweetie."
Mm-hmm.
So she's intentionally on the night shift, reaching Glen by contacting him at his place of employment, which happens to be Lakeshore Tire, which we've seen before, which is where Jeanne used to work. So now we can kind of piece together how they might have met through these sort of corporate jobs, these manufacturing facilities. So that's fascinating in one part. So we know that this is a secret letter that's just going to Glen, who's the lead addressee here, and Jeanne. And then she writes this immediate heavy paragraph.
Oh, it's so heavy. So heavy.
Yeah.
But she talks about Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that her and Glenn have had a kind of a little bit of a rocky relationship. She's not been too keen on him. So this, I'm sure this changed her mind about Glenn.
"I have known from Papa's letters that he must feel he was failing pretty fast, and so Jeanne's letters have not been quite the shock she may have feared. Of course, I could not determine from them just how he was, and kept hoping it might not be too bad. Jeanne should be reassured that I shall not lose my reason if he should not survive this slump. Actually, I have more or less resigned myself to the fact that he was knowingly facing this illness with the idea in mind that he might not live through it, and he has tried to prepare me also by writing that one should not be surprised at anything, and so perhaps I am better prepared than you think. After Papa, my first concern is for Mama, but since you've taken them to your place to stay, I find I'm somewhat inclined to assume you'll look after her too, through the worst of it too. You see, you need only to lend a shoulder, and you find it heavily loaded before you know it. I hardly know what to do about coming out there now. I see Dr. Mountain's point when he said he didn't believe in calling the family home. Actually, I would be less help to them, since they are at your house, than I would have been if they were still in Lacona. I might get Miss Davis to come down and stay with Miss Darst, if it weren't for the fact that she is taking care of her own sister, who is practically a mental case. And she has already said if she once gets out from under her care, she'll never accept any more such responsibility, and so I'm not just sure she would come, though she might if I gave her a long face and sad story. Lou is ready to go in hock to let me come, if you think I should, and if I could make satisfactory arrangements. But when I use the good judgment I'm boasting about, I must take into consideration these things." All right, and I'm going to pause it here as well because this letter is just so dense with information and the updates that we're getting. And it is, to me, very surprising that we get such a light letter on the same day, as if, oh, everything's fine. And then immediately, here's the reality of everything that's going on. So Chester has admitted to himself that this is very bad. And he's not good at admitting things to other people of what's going on. But in this case, it's bad. We see that there's an individual named Dr. Mountain, which is just a fascinating name for a doctor, when he said he didn't believe in calling the family home. It's interesting because she's concerned, should she get to Iowa? Like, is this the time? Should she get on that train? Probably not a flight. She'd probably take the train out there to Des Moines and join Jeanne. And it's a hard decision. Then we hear about Miss Davis, and I just wanted to sort of clarify this. We've heard about an Uncle Davis before with relation to Miss Darst. So there's, I think it's some sort of either like cousin or niece who's taking care of another in town, just for the informational aspect here in Doylestown. Every now and then we're going to hear about Miss Davis. Maybe she can look after Miss Darst. So there is another individual that can help out, but it's just not clear, and she's got her hands full with something that she's going through. Lou, yeah, seems just ready to be let go, as she says. So it's really bad. Whatever's going on at this point, it's been communicated. It's really bad that she's thinking about hopping on the train. 1. If the folks were staying in Lacona, I'd be more apt to come. But since you and Jeanne have taken the responsibility of bringing them to your house, I feel easier about them both. And there isn't the need for me now there would have been if they had refused to come. 2. Since Jeanne is married now, there would be less room at her house for us, for I'd have to bring Louis with me. And if I stayed at Sister's, and since her kids are grown and using the bigger beds, she wouldn't have a place for me to stay either. I'd probably be spending all my time going to and from their house. 3. I'd have to take Louis out of school, and while it might be possible to send him to school with little M, it also might not, and I'd have the trouble of keeping him quiet so that Papa could rest, more or less undisturbed, and also, if he couldn't go to school out there, he'd fall too far behind in his schooling, and that would be to his disadvantage. 4. I'd not only have to spend the cost of the trip out there, but if Miss Davis did agree to come, I'd have to pay her for her services and cooking and such for Miss Darst, and while I've a little money hidden away for in-case occasions, I wouldn't have enough to take care of everything, and I would hate to have to borrow from you and Jeanne, and you'd be the fall guy for your past generosities. 5. I might write to Mr. and Mrs. Murphy and ask them to come and get her if it were necessary, but it is evident that they don't want her for any great length of time, and while I suppose they'd do it, it wouldn't be for long. 6. Lou has said he'd take leave during Louis's Easter vacation that I mentioned in my letter yesterday, but 5 days wouldn't do more than take us out there and get us back, leaving no time for visit, and for my money, that would be worse than nothing, and when you sum it all up, what could I do once I got there except be there and perhaps be a diversion from the daily grind? I know that both Mama and Jeanne are far more capable to cope with any situation that arises than I would possibly be, except just be there with Mama, and as you said, leaving would be twice as hard. So, Mr. Anthony, I'm right back where I started from, and still don't know just what would be the best thing to do. I'm relying on you and Jeanne as first-hand viewers to keep me posted on developments, and will try to have things in reasonable order so that I can come at the drop of a hat, if you so indicate. There is one thing that I would like to mention to you and Jeanne. I assume you will give this letter to her at some time when she can read it, without the folks knowing. And while I'm trying to remain optimistic about the whole thing, I would like for her to think this over and drop the seed if necessary. And here it is. All right, before we get into the last part of the letter here, where she goes into the next subject, I just wanted to go back through her list here. She is this is probably one of the most straightforward letters I've ever seen in the collection, where she just lists out the facts and says, this is how it's going to be. You know, something has settled in her mind that this could really be it. There's no jest anywhere. The only jest is about Mr. Anthony, which is basically like the Dear Debbie kind of columns that she's using that, referring to Glen. Outside of that, no, just logistics of what's going on here.
Well, she even makes mention that she's using good judgment.
Yeah.
She's taking emotion out of this, you see, because she was in Pennsylvania when Bob was killed, when Bob died, and was only running on emotion. You know, she could only run on emotion because she had nothing else. And so she's really, I think she's, like you do, you know, leaning on her past experiences with this and understanding that she could be emotional. She could run out there if she wanted to, but what good would it do? And I really, it's just such a very nice to see this maturity in her. You know, she's really, really, really grown up since we've been reading these letters, of course, because she was 18 when we started reading these letters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's young, but she's an older soul, you know, and she knows that this would be better. And you're right, she lays everything out. And she's right in all of it. She's right in everything. So she's like, no, I'm not going to come. I'm going to use good judgment. I'm going to take things one day at a time. It's really, to see her take this really bad situation head on like that.
It's good.
I love her.
It's good. But here's the, as she says, here's the last subject of the letter that she's going to get into. I know, in the first place, that if Papa should die, that he'd come back to life and give every one of us hell if we called that undertaker in Lacona. I can't remember the man's name. Mama would, if she is able, but he drove Papa to the hospital in his ambulance when he had the first heart attack, and he is a very nice man, and I know that Papa would rather have him than anyone else. He is in Milo, a youngish man, and as I said, very nice, considerate, and he's my choice. Another thing is this. It would grieve me to have Papa buried in Lacona, when it seems to me he'd probably rather go back to Indiana and be buried at Hopewell with his mother and father. If you asked him, he'd probably pooh-pooh the whole idea, but actually he considers them all a bunch of rebels, and even though he has lived in Iowa these many years, his heart lies at home with the home people. There would be extra expense attached, of course, but for my money, it would be worth it. I have said I still hope against hope that he will, with rest and care, get back to what he was when I came east. But if he shouldn't, that is the arrangement I'd make. And if he should die, some arrangements would have to be started before I could get there, and so I commission you, without pay, to voice my opinion until I could get there. I addressed this to you at work, as I thought it too risky to write to the home address. I do expect you to let Jeanne read this, as it is important that she does. I shall try to write almost every day if I can to the folks. All letters will be addressed to them, but are intended for you and Jeanne too. I think my best bet at the moment is just to sit it out a while, but as I wrote, I'll try to make some arrangements in advance, as much as I can. Again, Glen, I'll be forever in your debt for what you're doing now, and though I must confess I could at times give you a crack on the skull, I'll never again knock your kindness, nor your goodness of heart. Love, Sweetie. I think that undertaker's name is right.
That sounds kind of funny. His name is Right.
Yeah. Now, is that the undertaker she's upset with, or the one that she thinks that Chester would like from Milo, which is a town in Iowa? It's not a person named Milo. Yeah.
I think that Right is the one that she wanted.
Yeah.
Like the way that I was reading this, the undertaker in Lacona is not very good. So that would be like the funeral director. Yeah. Like that's kind of like, oh wow. So she in that paragraph spoke 3 times of Chester dying. Like, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. I think being older too and experiencing her brother, like losing her brother and going through that, you know, because it's very hard to lose a parent or a brother. You know, it's very hard to lose somebody like that. Like a grandmother or grandfather, you're incredibly sad, but you also know you're probably going to be losing them because they're older. Losing your dad, oh geez, and she's just approaching this just no nonsense.
That's it.
What can we do? You know, if this is how we're going to do it, then he's going to want that. Like making these arrangements. I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky because my mother and even my mother-in-law have both made all their arrangements. So I don't have to deal with that, which I think is a beautiful gift because you can 100%. See what it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I know it's a difficult subject for a lot of people, but we have a lot of conversations about this when I was a music director down at the church. And one of the things we did for the choir members of the church, many of which were older, was it's things you wouldn't even think of at the time that you're so stressed with when somebody passes. Like, what are the hymns that they'd like at the funeral service? So one thing that we have is we have a binder at the church that the choir members, while they're living, they write what their favorite hymns are. So it's not even a question. It's just written down. The choir knows this is what they wanted. The family doesn't have to worry about it. It's stuff like that. With Sweetie, it's the Undertaker. He would prefer this. And then she talks about the burial location. And she mentions Hopewell. There's actually, I saw there was a book that came out about the Hopewell Demarees. Like that group, the Indiana group is very large. And he was from there. And so if people are wondering, because I know we're not going to get to this for a very long time, is Chester eventually buried in Hopewell? And the answer is he's not. He's buried in Des Moines. So if you're out in Des Moines, he's at the Masonic Cemetery in Des Moines. Yeah, and he has a.
Can you visit the Masonic Cemetery? That's okay.
You can just walk in the public cemetery there. But like he's there and he's got the Mason symbol there because we all know Chester was a Mason. So that's where he's buried. But the question of even where do people go at the end? It's a very difficult conversation to have. Yeah. Because there's so many considerations. Like, are you going to visit? Who wants to go see them? Where would they want to be? And things like that. It's very difficult, for example, for me to visit Sweetie and Lou because they're buried in Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. So if anybody's down in D.C., they're in with the World War II vet section, sort of away from the, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and things like that. But, I know some people, they want to be able to go and they want to sit, by the side. I can't do that with Sweetie and Lou because they're all the way in Washington, D.C. Chester winds up in Des Moines. Jeanne donated her body to science. There is no grave. Actually, there's no memorial stone for Aunt Jeanne, which to me is very sad, but I get it because, she was such an interesting personality and things like that. But all these decisions, and it's better to talk these things out with siblings and other people and work these things out with the family, however hard it is, because in that week-long time that passes between somebody passing and usually a funeral, there's unfortunately a lot of people that take advantage of grief.
Yes.
And they try to sell things. It's a horrible aspect of the industry. And there's a lot of people that help, but like just having these things settled, written down, things like the Undertaker, things like where they're going to be buried and things like this, just makes the process that much easier. So in all the grief, Sweetie's, as you said, they've learned from Bob. Unfortunately, they've had to learn from what happened with Bob. Mm-hmm. And Laura's still around, of course, at this time period. So if something happens, she's going to advise on a lot of things. But what if Laura wasn't there? And it was just Jeanne and Sweetie and Frank and Lizzie making these decisions. And note, this letter is not going to Frank and it's not going to Lizzie because it's going to Glen. And she gives that wonderful line at the end. She's like, you might be a knucklehead, but you're a good knucklehead. You have a kind soul. And I think now we're like, okay, this is why Jeanne married him.
Yep. Yeah. And for Sweetie to have somebody like that, where she's able to be out east and able to like process everything and know that at least, because like with Jeanne, like, Jeanne's there and everything, but to like have a man, like who can like lift people if they need to be lifted, can make
he really can,
like he seems like he's a really good person.
Yeah.
obviously, because he's helping his in-laws.
Yeah.
He's having them stay at his house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Jeanne was like, this is what we're doing. And he probably was like, yeah. So like for Sweetie to have that, to like say, okay, they are okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about them because they have people, because this is actually something that has happened. We've talked about this before. Like people don't stay where they grew up. They like move.
Right.
I did, you know,
Yep.
so it's like, I can be home in 4 hours.
Yeah.
If I speed. And you don't do that through Ohio. You just don't. Not with those state troopers. So for her to have that, it's like a great comfort. And she also has the experience that she can lean on, where she knows that like getting really emotional and just jumping and reacting like that way without thinking isn't going to benefit anybody, least of all her. So I'm very sad for her having to deal with this, but he's not gone.
He's not.
He's just going through a really, really, really rough time right now.
Yep. And this is the last letter in the episode. It's hard to follow that letter with really anything. We are leaving the audience in a bit of suspense here with what's going on with Chester, but we're just going to hope, just like Sweetie at the end of this letter, that Chester's going to pull through and that everything's going to be okay. And with that, we'll see you next week.